Well, let's move on to this story now. Illegal initiation schools are a perennial problem in the country. The CRL Commission says this is due to simple greed. It says unscrupulous people try to make a quick buck with no care for young people's lives. So then let's discuss this further with CRL Chair David Luka Mosoma. David, thank you so much for joining us this morning. A very good morning to you. Let's talk a little bit about this. We've had this conversation extensively but I just feel like we're not hitting home, especially where safety is concerned. But what can be done to ensure the safety of boys that will be going to initiation schools? We've seen reports of these bogus schools, but it looks as though nothing is dissipating.
Good morning, Faith, and your viewers. Indeed, this issue of the deaths of initiates in initiation schools, it's really perennial, and the problem is known because the cause is commercialization, which has attracted preponderance or a number of illegal people opening these schools for themselves with no experience, with no vetting. Even the attempt to close down on this thing seems to be very, very difficult. And the process has caused so untold suffering, pain, and shame in communities. And I think that the best way is to apply to the latter the spirit of the Customary Initiation Act to the latter, because it does provide sufficient guidelines, standards, and approach in terms of which these could be kept. But the illegal schools are really, really a problem in many areas, because the idea or the quest to get a quick buck by really opening schools has become so, open-ended, so to speak. And in fact, it's not the entire, all the provinces. There are specific provinces that have these particular problems.
Like the Eastern Cape?
For example, the Eastern Cape in particular. Other areas do have deaths, but they are not of the same magnitude, the same numbers that you see and experience in the Eastern Cape. Remember that initiation is a pride of a community for young men to go through this rite of passage, for them to earn the right to participate in civic and community affairs. Because if you are not from there, it appears you are not a man. And even you could be 70-year-old, you're still a young person. So you can see the level at which this the qualification to become a man has been raised. So each and every person in that community would have to go through that process. Now, the safety of the initiates lies squarely in the hands of one, the traditional leader who opens the school, the legal school. Second, the traditional sergeant who does the work. And thirdly, the caregiver. Now, when you send your child to school, you know that those that are in charge of the school are highly responsible for the care and the safety of your child. But in this instance, it would appear that parents have to be there, uncles have to be there, so you don't know actually where the responsibility lies. So that's where the problem lies.
You know, if we don't do something about it, tangibly so, we are going to have the same conversations about initiation deaths, about how many of the boys' lives, especially with those initiation practices, with those bogus schools, where has led to some of the boys themselves losing the most crucial organs, right? So we're going to consistently have this problem in this country unless we can effect other enforcing regulations, as you're speaking about, or we just need a plan that is adopted by the community? And speaking about plans, I mean, do you guys as a CRL have something in place to perhaps assist with this initiation days? Because I think more than anything else, you would agree with me that it gets tiring to speak about the same problem over and over again. And every single year, we have to speak about another child dying at the hands of somebody who tried to have economic profit instead of actually considering the lives of a child. So what are the plans here? Let's be practical in terms of what can we practically implement so that something gets done.
One, you have the person who convenes the initiation school must be held to account. That's your number one. Because nobody would be allowed, whether it's illegal or illegal, it doesn't matter. But the illegal ones must be shut down completely. No negotiations, they should not exist at all. Only those that are authorized by government, because you have to have a certificate, you have to have your traditional leader, and the traditional leader has to vet the traditional sergeant, and all those that accompany, they have to be vetted. Kids who go to this particular school must have attained medical certificate of fitness, because some of them may go to this school with diseases that might cause death, and say we attribute that to the initiation school. Those are key elements. Secondly, is to make sure that the customary Initiation Act is actually followed. Why? Because it has created structures in the local environment, in the provincial and national. So you have got the National Oversight Committee with the relevant responsible committees that are on the ground on a daily basis. Because these are key to making sure on a daily basis you get reports. If a child is not well, take the child to the hospital. Where the school where the child dies, close the school, and then remove the children to where there is a better service, where the child could be taken care of better. Because if we don't do that, we are creating a community where parents remain without their sons, because their sons are either dead, they are botched circumcision where they have lost their manhood, and therefore they cannot participate. They live in shame, and yet the nature of this process is to give them dignity, is to give them the safety to their lives.
Yeah, you know, as I said, it's a very sad issue to be speaking about time and time again, and it looks as though there's no space almost. Do you think that in terms of law enforcement, that perhaps a lot more needs to be done so that those that are actually conducting these bogus initiation schools are, never mind arrested immediately, but then the chain of arrest needs to be extended or expanded so that you can have more people that remain accountable, but remain accountable to the law? So let's say that something opened up, that you arrest the person that opened up the initiation school, you arrest this bogus surgeon, you arrest the caregiver, you arrest everybody that could perhaps be involved in ensuring that you know, some of these initiates are falling prey to greed. I mean, can we really expand here where the arrest can actually be made?
You see, when you create a deterrent to a particular action, you must make those who seek to perpetuate the wrong act be afraid. But if you create a laissez-faire where anybody can do as they wish, you'll continue to experience what we're experiencing today. So the law enforcement agency is at the heart of this, where you can see that they don't tolerate anything illegal. The illegal ones, the illegal schools, must be monitored stringently to make sure that there is collaboration between these schools, health, police, municipality, and all the organs and stakeholders that are necessary to make a success of the initiation school. That's a key that what we require, really. And also what is important is to tell people to know that taking their sons to initiation school is not to take them to death. Is to take them to really the rite of passage which will ensure that they come back, they went alive and come back alive. And we need to emphasize the dignity of human life. Very, very important, because we can't send our sons to go and die each year as if we're sacrificing them to some unknown gods.
I hear you. I hear you, Mr. Mosoma. I just wonder whether or not government is paying enough attention to it, and more than anything else, how do we get communities really involved in being able to keep their own children safe? Cultural and religious and linguistic communities chairperson David Luka Mosoma.